What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bill Brian Bafflestone. So today we're having another episode of my Metagaming series, where I look at Dungeons & Dragons from a more holistic perspective. And we are trying something new today. You may have noticed that I tend to craft my videos like I'm doing a presentation for a multi-million-dollar client, because that's how I think of you guys. But it's been brought to my attention that some of my viewers prefer longer form content, more conversational type of content, more personal type of content. And so I figured I would try and respond to that demand and do a little something different today where it's just going to be one take and I don't have anything scripted or prepared. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts about the fighter class because I have been diving into them pretty deeply lately. I've really never played with fighters. I have only played in one campaign, and it's an all-cleric campaign. And I'm the only one that multi-class, and I'm multi-classed into wizard. So never really seen fighters do their thing, and so I've never really understood like the mechanics behind them, the math, the choices that you make, the play style, until recently, when I started diving into the fighter class at the behest of you viewers. And you know what? That's actually an interesting segue. Let me take another step back and mention that I'm doing the Patreon thing now, because you may have noticed that I have been pretty prolific and putting out a lot of videos lately, and yet the quality of my videos has gotten better. Well, that's not happening by accident. The reason why is because I've decided to go all in on this, and I'm approaching it like a full-time job, putting in 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so, I would like to keep doing that and maybe make a living at this. So the Patreon. If you want to support the channel, feel free to check it out. That said, you don't owe me anything, and I'm very grateful for you to just be watching this. But that said, real talk, I don't owe you anything either, right? But I'm working hard here to try and provide you good content, and if you appreciate it, I would really appreciate your support. So that said, I am trying to be more responsive to what viewers want, and that's why I decided to jump into the fighter domain, or the fighter class. And so I'm doing this 28-part series, and I'm doing 3 videos on each subdomain. And I started with the Rune Knight and the Psy Warrior because they're from Tasha's, and Tasha's is new and hot, and I'm responding to the demand. But I really wish I'd started with Battlemaster, because I have been really diving into the math with Battlemaster. And combined with the general knowledge that I've been picking up over the course of doing these videos, which has included several builds at this point, I've come to realize that there's one way to build a fighter. I mean, maybe 2. So there's 2 approaches that are just way, way better than any other, and you face justified criticism if you ever deviate from it. And those, of course, are sharpshooter crossbow expert in first place, and in second place is great weapon master with polearm master, and then there is nothing else. It's a 2-man race. I mean, you can screw around with trying to replicate that damage, but you just can't. You just complex it up and make it more unreliable, and you just can't really get to those levels. That forms a baseline that is very difficult to deviate from, because not only do you have to approach the character in a certain way, but you can't really go off the progression, because it's all about getting extra attack. And anything that slows down getting extra attack just kind of screws up the whole fighter class. I've tried to deviate from that a little bit in my builds so far, and particularly in the Psy Warrior, where I actually multi-classed into wizard just to get some more versatility, to get some more powers that filled holes that I perceived in the way the character had to play the game. And I received criticism for this from good power gamers. Shout out to Ben Shabtai. He's the one that really kind of got me thinking about this and researching this. And I have to say those criticisms are pretty valid. They're pretty valid because The fighter has a kind of a specific role of pumping out that consistent DPR, and then he can't have too great of defenses, apparently. I've bolstered my defenses in a few ways, and people are like, but that will just force enemies to attack other people. If you're unhittable, they're not going to attack you, and I guess the role is for the fighter to soak up damage as well. But the main criticism is that it puts off the progression of extra attack. You really want that extra attack at 5th level, and you really want that extra attack at 11th level. And if you don't go for those, and if you don't go for crossbow expert and sharpshooter, or polearm master and great weapon master, you're just not good relative to that standard. Okay, sharpshooter is the best. Like, crossbow expert and sharpshooter is clearly head and shoulders like the best strategy for every single fighter archetype, unless they have something that basically calls for great weapon master, like maybe the Echo Knight. But the fact is that sharpshooter is better than great weapon master because, one, it's attached to archery, which gives it range. And so, yeah, 120-foot range is obviously way better than 5-foot range. And if you look at the math for these feats, it's all about bumping up your attack bonus if you want to leverage them. And so archery has a huge advantage there because the archery fighting style is the only one that adds to the attack bonus. All the others give like a negligible bump to damage that is nowhere near the bump you get from combining archery fighting style with sharpshooter. And they get magic bows which stack with magic arrows. And magic arrows are like pretty easy to come across in most campaigns. So most of the time they are going to be at like +4 to hit relative to someone using great weapon master at a minimum. That's like +1 bow, +1 arrow, and archery fighting style. And that mathematically just crushes your DPR into the stratosphere because you are connecting all the time with that power attack from sharpshooter. And so if you deviate from that, your DPR just goes way, way down. And whatever versatility you pick up from it doesn't really seem to help the party that much, right? It's like other classes that get all of that fun stuff. You know, I mean, again, I play wizards. And so I'm used to, agonizing over every level. What spells do I add? What prep do I add? Do I have to drop anything? A lot of thought goes into that. And then in every single encounter, there's just so many things that I can do based on the environment, based on the enemies and their weaknesses and their capabilities, based on my party and what they can do, based on how I freaking feel like it, because I just have so many options. And it's just like, do I want to hypnotic pattern? Do I want to sleet storm? Should I just slow them? Or, maybe the paladin should have some fun. I'll throw a haste on him. Or, okay, time for a polymorph. Or it's just like, or, like all of these really cool options, climbing in level and in approaching individual battles and interactions. And the fighter just, okay, I go up to the biggest thing and I hit it. And every level, I just get a little better, a little extra attack, a little bump to hit, a little bump to my damage, a little extra indomitable. I mean, as I'm doing these builds, as I go from level to level, it's just like, and no new tactical changes, and no new tactical changes, and no new tactical changes. And so it just seems incredibly boring, and you can't even inject some fun and some variety into it without deviating from this one character build progression that you basically have to take to fulfill your role to max out damage. And it just seems very boring. It just seems unnecessary. I mean, I've gone without a fighter this whole time, and a bunch of clerics and a wizard and a few summons, can do pretty good. I feel like, the only way to make it interesting is to try like and multi-class or try and take like some weird offbeat feats and such. And whenever I try those, honestly, those are not well received by people who play fighters, who immediately criticize, yeah, but all of that stuff means your DPR went down, right? My War Wizard build, I'm all like, but I added shield and absorb elements and a familiar and a bump to my initiative, and I've got arcane deflection, and I can cast fog cloud and sleep. And they're all like, but you don't get extra attack. You're putting off extra attack. The party's going to hate you. They would much rather that you just blow up stuff and kill it quicker. And why are you worrying about defense? The best defense is a good offense. And they've got a point. I mean, I can see the numbers. I can crunch numbers. I just never really had to about weapons and such before now. And it's just really discouraging. Like, what the heck? Wizards of the Coast, what is this? It just, man, so I don't know. I feel like I'm committed to this fighter series. I definitely have no problem doing review and rating series. I definitely have no problem doing deep dives to try and like optimize their powers, because it's really simple. You take Sharpshooter or Great Weapon Master, and then you optimize around them. You try and get advantage. You try and get attack bumps. And when you look at all the fighters, that basically means, oh, Battle Master, because they have precision attack. And I don't want to bore you with the numbers, but when you start plugging precision attack into like DPR calculations, you're just like, oh my God. All right, no, there's nothing else. There really is nothing else. Precision attack and Sharpshooter is what maxes out a fighter's DPR. And any deviations from that are just huge steps down in terms of DPR. And then after like 2 steps down, then it's to the abyss. You don't even want to take that step. So, yeah. Fighters, man. Am I missing something, guys? Because as far as I can tell, maybe there's some value in it holistically as a starter class. I mean, I just did create a fighter build because we just added a new player to our campaign who's new. And my directive was, she wants to play a 2-weapon brute and doesn't want it too complicated, so make it happen. And I was like, okay. And couldn't give her a Great Weapon Master or anything because of the 2-weapon thing. So I built a little something, but the whole time I was just thinking, it really should be Sharpshooter, or if thematically she wants to hit things, it should be Great Weapon Master. So I don't know what to do about that. I mean, okay. But it's okay. So maybe it's a good fighter, or maybe it's a good starter class. Human Christmas. So okay, yeah, I don't want this to turn into a rant. But that's what I've discovered from the fighter class, is that it's a really cookie cutter progression. It's something that forces you into a particular style of feat progression. I mean, you need feats so bad. You got to start with a V human or a custom race to get that starting feat, and immediately like, oh, you choose an alternate race. Okay, you're suboptimal. Great. So yeah, anyway, let me know what you think, whether you agree or disagree in the comments. In any case, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bill Brown Bafflestone. See you next time.